Okay, I gotta get out of the sun here. Naturally, I love all of you. Uh, Events are speeding up, so I wanted to provide some relevance. I know I've covered an enormous amount of material. So there were two things that I have to remember. I'll lose everything I just processed about 5 minutes ago because things always change for me. That's the point. Change. Not being afraid of the unknown, what happens next. That's what happens when you're living in no fear, because love is the absence of fear, which is simply to say that a love vibration is absent a fear vibration. One is higher frequency than the other one, right? So you know your reality. You know the things that you experience are high frequency, right? Okay. That's pretty simple. That's basic logic. So the title of this one, what is it? Worker bees versus free spirit, or a hive mind collective versus free spirit. Or if you will, when I was a child growing up, that says, hey, in order for me to accept you for who you are, you got to be just like me. I'm sorry. You're on your journey, I'm on my journey. I write my own stories just like you write your stories, right? But do not ever, please, insult my creative intelligence, my imagination. Please. Okay? You're on your journey. You can write your own story, but don't ever try to be the author of my story. Okay? That's a violation of my free will. Now you're trying to hold my mind captive in order to experience what it is you experience. I'm sorry. You experience what you want to experience. I'll experience what I want to experience with the energy that represents what I am. And because of the energy that I run, because it's such at a high speed, allows me to be able to do that. And that allows me to have infinite imagination, because my mind is not held captive by a vampire or a parasite or a hive mind. Okay? Now, granted, worker bees do have an important, valuable function. That's obvious. They're pollinators. Okay? So I don't want to get into all the programming stuff in this video, but I wanted to cover worker bees versus free spirit and filling up all the libraries on the planet, which is an awful lot of data, isn't it? So now you get into data transfer and why we hold certain data in memory, because it has relevance later in the future in order to help impart why that information or that data is valuable now. Versus if my coursework has already been completed, if you will, to reach a certain state of speed, which is maximum, then why would I be holding on to lower frequency data that doesn't have any relevance to me, and I would just delete it? Because you realize that it has future relevance for putting together why it is the underlying causality is experienced the way that it is. So the data has relevance. So when you think about all of the stories that we've told that we've already experienced, which means that if you ask me, could I fill up every library on the planet? Yes, of course I could. There are a lot of us that could. There's many of us that could. Think of all the Neos that there are versus how many Mr. Smiths there are. Okay? They Xerox stuff. That's why when I was a teenager, I thought, man, there's a lot of Xerox machines here. Those, for me, in the way that I perceive it, are what we call Xerox machines, robots. They're running a program. And that's because they don't know the difference between what they are and what they're not. That means that when they go into a classroom and they're being told, guess what? You get a candy stick. You get chocolates. You get to live in an acidic state of mind as a reward for what it is we're going to put into your memory, and then you're going to run that in the future. And that becomes a behavioral response to the information that you're putting in memory to run that program. Now that's simple stuff. So when you're already running a higher state of awareness as a child, you begin to realize how the programming works. So one of the things that I did, realizing it while having fun at the same time, because we can multitask, by the way, okay, is we're time vectoring data. So you're time vectoring the value of the data that exists that is being held in memory by all the units that are using it in order to do what? Feed on us. Because one of the things that I realized over space-time on an event horizon timeline was how many parasites they were breeding. Because all you have to do is just say in America itself, start with a bench line on a timeline, on an event horizon. Okay? For example, here's some examples of how you can measure parasitic behavior. Okay? And just as a sidebar to that, of all the places I've ever visited, Honolulu is by far the most parasitic environment I have ever experienced in my life. It's like, man, I might as well just walk around naked. I'll be lucky if I have any shorts left on me. Okay? That's how bad it is. That's a measurement. Remember? We take measurements. We're measuring the difference between losing light, gaining light. Okay? Energy producers versus energy thieves. Okay? Parasites versus energy givers. That's really what we measure. Okay? A garbage disposal. Okay? You can measure that also on a larger scale between harmony and balance in nature. Okay? Which is like a recycling bin. So, without getting into that subject, when we talk about data acquisition, example, or data transfer, so like, for example, as I was mentioning in the previous video, about how if you've got all this data that is sitting in all those books because you've written all those stories or you've experienced that much data as a result of that much coursework that you've done throughout the course of your soul's journey, okay, tell me, how is it possible that I could spit out all that data at once? I couldn't. I can't. It's impossible for me to be able to express to you all the data that's held in all those stories that I've experienced already. I could fill up every library on this planet with things that I've experienced already in the course of my soul's journey, believe it or not. How do I know that? Well, if you've got enough time to sit around a campfire, okay, I will sit down and I will explain to you, or I will share with you, one sentence at a time, one paragraph at a time, one chapter at a time, one book at a time. And we'll give a title to that book. We'll put it on a shelf. Okay? We can measure that in space-time. Okay, let's start another story. I will tell you another story. This one's going to be different from the last one. Every page is going to be different from the last page. Every chapter is going to be different from the last chapter. Okay? So this means, man, we're filling this library up with book after book. How much time you want to sit around the campfire? At some point in time, we got to drink some water. At some point in time, we're probably going to need some energy because of the way that it works down here. We got to accommodate the avatar, right? Okay, so we'll take a break. We'll go back to telling some more stories. I'll tell you another story. I'll tell you another story. I'll tell you another story. Those stories go on forever, don't they? Of course they do. How do you know that? Because you run on forever light. Your first light, first law. Love is the law. That's how you know, okay? So you already know you got a self-reference. You're running on infinite experiences, which is infinite imagination, which is infinite stories to tell. Right? So what do? We tell our stories. Don't we love to sit around the campfire, on a beach, in a forest? Anywhere in the cosmos, for that matter. Telling stories of how beautiful the universe is that we live in. Because the perception, which is the vibration, of the energy that we use to experience who we are and share those stories are on the highest speed energy of the most powerful magnet that you can imagine, is sharing those stories. Because we've already experienced them. Because that's how fast they move. That's why when I was a child, how much time do I got? My God, there's no way that I'm going to be able to pack in every square centimeter of this planet that is so beautiful to experience. I only got, I'm pushing 70 years of age now. So I realized, man, I'm running out of time. Okay? And so I began thinking last night, man, I still want to go back and play drums again. You know, put together a band. Write some more books. Do this, do that. So you begin to realize they can't capture that, okay? There's no way that artificial intelligence, okay, can capture something like that, okay? It's just like, sorry, I'm a free spirit, okay? So when you realize how many stories you have to tell that you can experience, you've already experienced because you have so much fire, okay, that is in that campfire upon which those stories are told, you begin to realize where it is you are in the cosmos based on the coursework and everything that you use to measure who it is that you are in relationship to everything else that is to experience. See? So when you come with that much fire and that much love and that much light in your heart, chances are you're going to have a seat at the table, okay? For me, I've always thought of myself as an individual, a spirit, a single spirit, okay? I'm certainly not what they call groupthink. I read a book once about groupthink, which is hive mind. So usually there's some player out of that says it's either my way or the highway, which means that the decisions have already been made because I'm in control. Well, if you're one of those kind of beings that really love to have control over everything, chances are you're going to lose me as an asset to your organization, okay? Because I love to collaborate, okay? That's what I do. I'm not into top-down hierarchies, okay? It's like, and I'll give you an example, I shared this before, okay? This is what we do. This isn't about me. This is how I share how the experiences work, that others that were with me began to realize how beautiful it was to experience what we can together. Because that's what it means. We are doing this together like a team. We're in a team effort here because we have objectives. So, for example, when I went to work for a company that was called Fire Research, okay, which was on a contract basis for Josephine County up in Oregon, I had already worked many years with the U.S. Forest Service, CAL FIRE, the Count of Orange Fire Department, Rockwell International, U.S. Naval Weapons Station, Seal Beach. So there was a guy that used to be the fire management officer of the Siskiyou National Forest. Says, listen, I'm looking for a guy that can run wildland fire for basically Josephine County, and you're going to hire all these guys to work for you. You're going to have access to a helicopter, I think a dozer as I remember it, another engine, and of course our department, which was structural at the time. So one of the things that I measured when I began interviewing guys that I was going to hire, okay, and when I first gathered them all together, which I think was around 70 guys, I don't remember I think I had a couple of girls that were on that crew, even though I was a supervisor at one time with the U.S. Forest Service when they were beginning to recruit a lot of what they call minorities, although I don't think of them as minorities. I think of them as equals because we're sort of equally in the cosmos together, right? Sharing each other's experiences and what we all learn through each other as the sum of its parts, which essentially is the evolution of the cosmos itself, right? Okay, so that's sort of how I impart myself whenever, because you're dealing with a hierarchy, so I've been given the responsibility of being a supervisor. So what I do is I take my uniform off that has bars on it, okay? And remember that I'm spirit, okay? So that's numero uno, I'm living spirit, okay? So I share in nature the great living spirit that is in nature, which is the girl that is in nature, with all the other living spirit that is in nature. Okay? We are in peace, love, harmony, and balance with each other. So I start from that perspective, okay? So, for instance, when I've got all these guys that are there for what? What is our function? To protect lives and property. Okay, we all understand that's why we're all here together. So when I first brought these guys together, I said, listen, I only got two eyes and one unit of consciousness. Okay? I'm only aware of so much at any one given moment. My responsibility is looking out for all you guys. That's a lot of responsibility. So one of the best ways in which we can all look out for each other is when we're all working for each other. So guess what? I don't have eyes in the back of my head, even though I got an antenna that knows what's going on behind me because it's 360 degrees, like a bubble, a circle of light. So I said, but if we're all working together, anytime anybody on this crew is aware of anything, just because I'm the supervisor doesn't mean that you don't have an equal right to tell me something you're aware of that I need to be aware of because you're aware of it. If you believe that I need to be aware of it because you're aware of it, do not live in any fear that just because I'm the supervisor, you're living in fear to tell me something. You see anything, you hear anything that's important to you because you're aware of it, let everybody know. Move it all the way up the line. Even if you're the last guy at the end of a 20-man crew, that you're back there with a shovel scraping dirt, and you see something, you're aware of something, that's what it means to be a scout. You're scouting the terrain. You're aware of something that's happening on the terrain. So when you're out there fighting fire, you understand the risk involved. So everybody's looking out for each other. That works the same way in the military. Okay? We don't want to lose nobody. So our job there is to essentially restore the peace so that the boat isn't rocked anymore. So we're working in waveform harmony with each other to restore the waveform harmony of everything else that is in the planet, ultimately, which is restoring the frequency, which is restoring the law, which is restoring first law. That's what it means to be a first law Indian. Okay? That's why we're first law nations, okay, that abide by first law, which is love is the law, okay? So what ended up happening out of all that was that those guys, when I had a guy who was a supervisor, thought because my lungs were sort of, I couldn't get up the hill fast enough anymore at my age, I'm 42, so they had to let me go. Every guy that was on that crew wrote a letter to the supervisor of the company to say, you get rid of this guy, we're gone. Okay? This isn't about me. It was what they learned from that. Okay? They learned from an Indian. Okay? How Indians live on the planet. Okay? That's the benefit of learning from a teacher. They won't ever forget those experiences. They will hold those experiences in memory of something that has what? Value. They were learning time-vectored value. Because I'm gone. Okay? Where did I learn this from? Her. So I was just a conduit. So all they were saying to that supervisor is they become a reflection of what I am that they learned through her, through me, through them. Now they're becoming in alignment with me, who is in alignment with her, and when we're all in alignment with each other in waveform harmony, then imagine where we're all at. So this is why when I was a child and I landed here, I thought, man, I landed on the wrong movie set. This is Frankenstein. Why is that? Because they're always fucking with nature. Okay? All you got to do is look around you. They're always fucking with a girl on the planet. They don't know how to leave her alone. They're always fucking with nature. That's what it means when we talk about self-indulgence and perversion of nature. They don't know how to be in a natural cosmic order of things, in the way that light works. Okay? They don't know how to live in peace. They don't know how to be what love is, which is simply a higher frequency vibration of experiences, which is perception. How do you perceive the universe around you? And how do you share the energy that represents what you are in an identity function, what it is that you do with your energy? That's a function. So I realize that everything is speeding up, and there's a reason why it's speeding up, because it has a function. It's called moving on. Not like moveon.org. They always represent an inversion, the other side. They don't run higher frequency, which means live and let live, but there are rules, which is do no harm. If you're not doing any harm, then naturally you're able to do whatever you want to do. That frees up your energy to experience who you are with infinite creative imagination. And that's basic logic. Basic logic. All you got to do is means test it. Once you means test it and you're experiencing it, you learn from that. You're your own teacher. That's what self-rule, which is self-love. You're taking care of yourself. You love who you are because the energy that you're experiencing, who you are, is what love is. Now you're free. You're not allowing your mind to be held captive, okay, by others that are trying to tell you how you're supposed to live. So the energy itself becomes the experience, which becomes the teacher. That's the coursework. And the higher the speed, the more freedom you have. So you're attracting more light and becoming a more powerful magnet. Now your lighthouse, which is the wheel of light in your vortex, is spinning like crazy. Because you realize, man, I'm really moving at like 1,000 freight trains. And it's the most beautiful energy I know to experience, particularly when you're in alignment with the girl on the planet. So when you become a reflection of who she is, you're always giving away energy just like she is. That's why the very idea to charge a fee for the energy that we're all giving to each other is insane. Now, I understand why they do it, because they haven't reached that point yet. They didn't have a chance to learn through her how this works. So they're still stuck on a hamster wheel. running in lower density at a slower rate of speed. And that's what makes it, from the measurement of a classroom perspective, so painful for me. Because they didn't realize that the First Law Indians were always here for you. Because we love you. We know what happens. We know how this works. We know what we're going to lose. We're losing students. That's why I cry over that. Just for me to know that if it was possible for 5 minutes for another being to be able to experience a girl on the planet the same way I do, anyway, have a great day. If you can spend some time in nature and realize how powerful it is to be with her outside of a city, go camp out. There's still a couple months left, I guess, in fall, to spend some time in nature, go up to a lake, go for a hike, go to a beach, be with her, do the inner work, explore who you are, and the relationship you have with everything else that is. And you'd be surprised what happens when you do that. You become the author of your own journey. Have a great day, and I love you all. And here's a shout out for Lori Ladd. Thank you for being here, girl. I love everything that you're doing. I love your smile. And thank you, Patty Broussard. I can't thank you enough for everything you did. Okay? She's the only girl I ever met since I've been here on this planet that was willing to do the same thing I was willing to do in order that we could end the suffering. Because that's what it's all about. Love is not about suffering. We don't teach through fear, okay, in order for anybody to obey, okay? We share our experiences, our strength, and our hope, and what love does for us that we share with you, so that you begin to realize how we experience who we are together, we can move the needle, okay? Which means higher frequency, higher consciousness, in which everybody's mind is liberated because none of us is held captive, okay, by something that's trying to control what it is we experience through it, instead of being able to experience who we are through ourselves, okay, being the author of our own stories. So I'll leave you with that for the day. Anyway, have a great day. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here.